chapter 22, verses 14 and 15.
Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
So, sisters and brothers, when you want the keys to salvation, that we just read the keys. Keep the commandments. Just like when the young man asked Jesus, what should he do to get eternal life? Jesus told him to keep the commandments. And if you want to get into the Father's kingdom, you're going to have to keep these commandments. Now I want to give a shout out to a few sisters and brothers. First is Brother Clinton Patterson in Guyana, Sister Madeline Joseph in Trinidad, also to Malise and Erica in Switzerland, Jean and Chanel in South Africa, Brother Mwihi in Wales, United Kingdom, and Sister Mbugwe in Dubai, Sister Gago in New Jersey, also the sisters and brothers in Glasgow, Scotland, Manchester, England, Isles of Wight, England, and Brother and Sister Coles, Brandon and Susan Coles in Australia. I also want to give a shout out to Sister Sarai in Southern Illinois, also to Brother Robert Rowe and his family in Okinawa, Japan, and also to my lovely sisters in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And I want to give a shout out to Pastor Johnson and Bethel House of God that's in Florida. I want to say I'm glad to have y'all with us, because this is Black History Month, and since they go designated as Black History Month, we may as well do our history, because we're going to deal with it, sisters and brothers, because the history that we have in this country is a slave history. And the people that represent our real history is hidden from us, because you have another people running around calling themselves by our name. So this is the first leg of Black history, and the title is Black History Told by the Prophets, Part 1, Color. Black History Told by the Prophets, Part 1, Color. See, seeing that we have some people that they're not Gentile, but they're still white, the people that call themselves Jewish, they're running around saying that they are the real Jews. They don't use the word Israel. But if you are a Jew, then you are an Israelite. So being that we have people that are white that call themselves Israelites or Jews, then we have to go into the Bible and in history and find out what color Israel is. And the only way that we can find that out, being that somebody have been very sloppy with our pictures and certain parts of our history, we have to go and compare ourselves to other people that we was related to. When I mean related, that we was affiliated with or that we was around. But first, we want to go and start this in Genesis, the 10th chapter, so we can so we can look at the people that come across the flood. Genesis, the 10th chapter, we're going to deal with Noah and his sons. Now, it has gotten so bad, sisters and brothers, that solid scripture don't mean nothing anymore. People figure that there's more to it than more to it when they read certain scriptures than meets the eye. Sometime it is, but sometime it is just plain. So we're going to go to Genesis, the 10th chapter, and we're going to deal with Noah and his sons, because it is Noah and his sons that populated this whole planet, sisters and brothers. So let's start at Genesis, the 10th chapter, Genesis 10 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood.
Now these are the only ones that came over from the flood that the Lord used to drown the whole world. with Noah and his family, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And he's going to tell you about these three sons. Go ahead and read.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus.
Now, these are the sons of Japheth we're talking about. Go ahead and read.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations.
Now, this, sisters and brothers, tell you who the Gentiles are. They are the sons of Japheth. Now, you can't go to the sons of Ham and say this is a Gentile. You can't go to the sons of Shem and say this is a Gentile. Right. The Gentiles are only the children of Japheth. Who are they? Are the people that we call European or white. Now, I had a white minister say I'm a racist because I said that the children of the Gentiles are white people or European. What's racist about that statement?
Nothing.
What I did was state it according to what the Bible says.
Right.
You get all of these names that are attributed to the sons of Japheth, and you go and start to cross-reference of who their children are, you will come up with nothing but European and white folks. This is the Bible, sisters and brothers. Now we have Israelites running around calling the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom of Israel, as Gentiles. Now people saying that the Egyptians are Gentiles. Sisters and brothers, go back to the beginning and look at how the Lord designated them when they came across the flood. The Gentiles are the sons of Japheth. Instead of that old thing, if you ain't a Jew, you're a Gentile. That is an erroneous statement, sisters and brothers. Gentiles are the children of Japheth. I don't care what you think you read later on, the mold is set right here. Go ahead and read.
Verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut.
Now these are sons of Ham. Cush, Mizraim, and Phut. Go ahead and read.
And Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Septa, and Ramah, and Septeka, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth.
Now, he's talking about, let's look at something here. He said, and they're going to Cush, Seba, and Havilah. And Cush begot who?
Nimrod.
Okay, but we had something else too. We have the son, and then we have Sheba here. Now, Sheba and Ethiopia have two different locations, but still they come out of Cush. Go ahead and read.
That was verse 8. You want to skip to 10?
Go, skip down to 10. Go ahead and read.
And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar.
Now, this is the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom. Go ahead and read.
Out of the land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh, and the city of Rehoboth, and Calah. Now,
what we just found out that the Ninevites, the one that Jonah did not want to preach to, they are Cushites, children of Ethiopia, sisters and brothers. We're just learning some things on our way to learning something here. But go ahead and read.
And Resen between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. And Mizraim begot Ludim, and Anamin, and Lehabim, and Nephtuhim.
Now this Mizraim, this is Egypt, sisters and brothers. Now we're going to see who came out of Egypt. Go ahead.
And Pathrusim, and Casuhim, out of whom came Philistim.
Now, so the Philistines. You see, the big giant that fought against David, he was an extract of Egypt. So the Philistines were black too, they weren't white. Right. You know, everything we've been presented to on television is all white. You got David, little old white guy, got Goliath, the big white guy. It's just the opposite. A little black guy against a giant black guy. All of these was black, sisters and brothers. Now skip down to verse 20. Verse 20 and go ahead.
These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations.
Now, these are the sons. We just didn't name Canaan, but we know that Canaan, he didn't name all the Canaan children, but we know that these are the sons of Ham. If we had read the sons of Canaan, sisters and brothers, then we would have found out that Sodom and Gomorrah was Canaanites. That's right. Hamites, black folks. What verse are we?
We're at 21.
Go ahead and read.
And unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber,
Uh-huh.
the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born.
So now out of Shem, but we're not going to deal with all of Shem's children, sisters and brothers, because we want to get right on down to the people that's to Israel, which came out of Shem. Because Abraham come out of Shem. Now we're going to go into Genesis, the 37th chapter, and we're going to get right down to Israel, Abraham's children. Genesis 37, because I just want to give you a background of where everybody came from. And they came out of Noah and his 3 sons. And nothing has changed to this day. All of them are the same people, all of them have the same color, and we're going to show you that. So why you dealing with colors, Brother Boone, is because the Gentiles have painted everything white. And it's certainly not the case. Because you get Hamites. Most people don't know that Egypt is on the African continents. They don't know that the Egyptian was black, even though you got all the artifacts around. But every time we make a movie, they're all white. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to deal with Israel, because we're going to have to compare Israel to other people so we will know what we look like. So we're here at Genesis chapter 37, Genesis chapter 37, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Genesis 37 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And Jacob dwelt in the land of wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan.
Go ahead.
These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report.
So now, so Israel was dwelling in the land of Canaan. That's before they went to Egypt, sisters and brothers. Mm-hmm. And when those that got their wives, most of the 12 tribes, the oldest, the 12 sons got their wives from among the Canaanites, which was black folks. But now you got Joseph here, was Jacob's youngest son, and Jacob had showed favoritism toward him, and that's what, and his other siblings didn't like him. Go ahead and read.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age.
Go ahead.
And he made him a coat of many colors.
Go ahead.
And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him.
So now Joseph had 2 problems. One problem is his father showed favoritism to him, and the other one, he used to snitch on his brothers because he gave his father their evil report. So they didn't like Joseph. But skip down to verse 12 and go ahead.
And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, here am I.
Now, his brothers went to Shechem to feed the flock. So now Jacob sent Joseph, come on, I'm going to send you to your brothers, I guess, to get a report from them. But what happened? They looked up and saw Joseph coming. Let's see what happened when they saw Joseph coming. Skip down to verse 18 and go ahead.
And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, behold, this dreamer cometh.
Now, they really hated their brother Joseph. They wanted to kill him. And the only reason they didn't kill him, Reuben, the oldest brother, intervened. Skip down to verse 21. Verse 21, and go ahead.
And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again.
So now they wanted to, so he said, look, let's cast him in this pit that ain't got no water. That was good with them, because they cast him in the pit, there was no water, so his brother's going to let him starve to death or die of thirst. But Reuben did that just to buy a little time so he could sneak back later on and steal Joseph out of that pit and take him to his father. But something happened. Skip down to verse 24. Verse 24, and go ahead.
And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead.
Go ahead.
With their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt.
So now they're sitting up and eating and carrying on while their youngest brother, their young brother rather, is in the pit, starving. I show you sometimes Israel can be a little cold. You do this to your own flesh and blood brother. But while they were sitting there eating and carrying on, they looked up and they saw some Arabs. That's the Ishmaelite. These Arabs must have lived in the land of Midian, because they call them Midianites too. But they're Ishmaelites, sons of Arabs. Go ahead, and they saw them coming, and they was on their way to Egypt. Go ahead and read.
And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites.
Go ahead.
And let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content.
So they said, look, let's make some money. Let's don't kill him. Let's sell him. Let's make some money. So the brothers went along with that. That's what saved his life. But go ahead and read.
Then there were passed by Midianites merchantmen.
These are same people, sisters and brothers. Go ahead.
And they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit.
Now his brothers lifted him up out of the pit and sold him. Go ahead and read.
And sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt.
And so when they sold him, so the Israelites took Joseph down into Egypt. Skip down to verse 36. Verse 36, and go ahead.
And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard.
So now, you got these brothers, these 10 brothers, and sold a young brother, which one was 17 years old, to Arabs, and the Arabs took him down there, and they sold them to the Egyptians. But God was with Joseph, and everything that Joseph did prospered. So let's go to Genesis, the 39th chapter. Genesis chapter 39. Genesis chapter 39 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him out of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither.
And that's ironic, isn't it? The first one that sold the Israelites was the Israelites.
Was the Ishmaelites.
Because Israel sold them to
Israelites. To the Ishmaelites.
The Arabs. And the Arabs sold them to the Egyptians. So when it comes to selling people, we are the first that did the selling. Isn't that correct?
Yep.
Our own people, our own brothers. But now when he came now, and the Ishmaelites, the Arabs, brought him to Egypt and sold him to told him to an Egyptian dignitary.
Yeah.
And what happened? Verse 2.
And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian.
Go ahead.
And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had put into his hand.
Now this Egyptian owner, he saw that God was with Joseph. Looked like everything that Joseph did prospered. So he gonna take advantage of that, and he put Joseph over his whole household. And there was nothing that Joseph was not running. Skip down to verse 7 and go ahead.
And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. And she said, lie with me.
Now, that's something now. Now all of a sudden the master's wife want him to lie with her, but Joseph knew the law. Go ahead and read.
But he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house. And he had committed all that he hath to my hand.
Go ahead.
There was none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
Wait a minute. People think the law only started with Levi.
That's right.
This was before they went to Egypt, before they went into the wilderness. He said, look, how can I do this great sin against God? Because he know that laying with this man's wife was adultery.
That's right.
So the law was already in place, sisters and brothers. The royal law. You can't change that. That was there even before Israel became a nation. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her or to be with her.
Now, this was great pressure on Joseph. This woman was at him constantly. Skip down to verse 12, and let's see what happened, being that she couldn't get him. Go ahead and read.
And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out.
So now, this time she just going to get physical with him. When he come in a room or whatever, to do whatever he had to do, she grabbed him by his clothes. I guess it must be something that once you pull it off, that could be separated. I don't know what it was, but then he said, no, he ran and left the garment in her hand. So she come to the conclusion that Joseph wasn't going to lay with her, so she decided, actually, to get him killed. Because that's what they usually do when a slave do something like what she accused Joseph of. Skip down to verse 16. Verse 16. I wonder how many times this happened to us in slavery here in America.
That's right.
That the master's wife or the master's daughter wanted a slave to do something, and he did, and he got caught and he got killed for it. Or if he was too scared to do it, then they had him killed anyway. Because they figure he think we ain't good enough for him. This is a good example, but skip down to verse, 12?
We just finished 12.
Verse 16, and go ahead.
And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out.
Ain't that something? This Hebrew servant that you brought among us came in to mock me. In other words, he was the culprit, not her. She said, I cried out, and what happened? Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled.
Now, it's obvious he didn't even try to talk to Joseph. He was just mad because you done tried to lay with my wife. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison.
Now, so Joseph, master, sent him to jail, sisters and brothers. And he was there a pretty good while, sisters and brothers. Because remember, and he had served him a pretty good while, because when he was 17 years old, when his brothers sold him. So now, he was in prison. And while he was in prison, God was still with Joseph. And he got promoted to trustee. In fact, the man that was running the prison put everything into Joseph's hand, just like his master did when that bought him from the Ishmaelites. And this one had come to, this led to Joseph eventually becoming the ruler of Egypt. So now while he was in prison, these two guys had dreams, the baker and the butler. And Joseph saw him looking bad, looking sad. He said, why are you looking so sad? Well, because we had dreams. And they told him his dream, and Joseph told him, look, you're going to be restored to your position, but you are going to be hanged. And when the one that was restored, Joseph told him, look, when you get out of jail, a prison, talk to Pharaoh for me, because I'm a Hebrew, I have done nothing, but still I am in jail. Could you please mention me? The guy got out and forgot about it. So let's go into Genesis 41, chapter 41. Genesis chapter 41. And the guy didn't remember him until Pharaoh had a dream and needed somebody to interpret his dream. And Joseph was an interpreter of dreams because he did it to these two other inmates. One got hung and the other one got out and didn't mention Joseph's name until his dream came up. Genesis 41 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river.
Now, this 2 full years after this guy had gotten out of jail. He done forgot Joseph for 2 full years. Probably is going to forget him forever. Even though Joseph asked him, remember me, put in a good word for me. Now, this 2 years later, then Pharaoh had a dream. Go ahead and read.
And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow.
Go ahead.
And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed.
Go ahead.
And stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river.
So you had a set of fat cows, and you had a set of poor, I guess you can see the bone, extremely poor cows. Go ahead and read.
And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke.
So now you got these puny and skinny cows ate up the fat cow. Pharaoh woke up, but that wasn't the end of it. Go ahead and read.
And he slept and dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk.
Go ahead.
Rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them.
Go ahead.
And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream.
Now he had some on the same order, some real robust and healthy corn came up. And all of a sudden, some real messed up and burnt, I guess sun-dried out corn, it came up and ate up the good corn. And Pharaoh woke up again. He needed to find out what this meant. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. And he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh.
And that's when it comes to the true word of God, sisters and brothers, there's still nobody can really lay it down except for the people that he chose to do, and that is the children of Israel. Go ahead and read.
Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day.
All of a sudden now, this chief butler that he asked to remember him and plead for him 2 years ago. So, I do remember my faults today. Why? Because he only going to deal with it to gain favor.
That's right.
He didn't care about Joseph. He said, but I do remember my faults today. Go ahead and read.
Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker.
Go ahead.
And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream.
Go ahead.
And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him. And he interpreted to us our dreams, to each man according to his dream he did interpret.
Now he said, yeah, I remember. When you had me locked up, there was a young Hebrew in there with us. And we both had our dreams, and he interpreted our dreams, and it both came the same way that he said it would come. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was.
Go ahead.
Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged.
And him he hanged. In other words, he told me I was going to get out of jail, and I was going to go back to the position I had, and the other guy was going to be hanged. And it happened exactly the way he said. Go ahead.
Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh.
See, apparently, the Egyptians didn't like hairy people.
That's right.
So what did Joseph do? When Pharaoh called for him, he shaved himself. And then he put on, I guess, some clean garment, took away the prison garments. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there's none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
Now Joseph didn't try to jump up and act like he was somebody. He says, not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer. Letting Pharaoh know that, hey, it's not me, it's the word of God that I'm going to give you. Then Pharaoh told Joseph the dream, and Joseph interpreted the dream. Skip down to verse 29. Verse 29, and go ahead.
Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land.
So he told him the dream about the lean cows and the fat cows, the healthy corn and the puny corn. All this saying is you're going to have 7 good years of plenty. But after them 7 years, you're going to have a drought. And you ain't going to be able to raise nothing. Y'all going to be in trouble. Go ahead and read.
And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following it, for it shall be very grievous.
So it's going to be so bad and you're going to forget that you had 7 good years. Skip down to verse 33 and go ahead.
Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years.
Now he said, now I'm going to give Pharaoh some good advice. Good advice. Get a smart man and put over this. And let him prepare for these bad years. Go ahead. What verse was that?
We just finished verse 34. We're at 35.
Keep reading.
And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine.
Go ahead.
Which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine.
So he's telling Pharaoh, you're going to have these good years. I mean, you're going to have crops growing out of the wall. What you do is you gather all that you can and store it up in every city. So when the bad time comes, you be prepared for it. Skip down to verse 39 and go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled.
Go ahead.
Only in the throne will I be greater than thou.
Now, he said, look, being that the Lord done showed you this, who's wiser than you? So I'm going to put you over it. And I mean, you're going to be the absolute ruler of Egypt. The only place you ain't going to have no power is in the throne. I am still your ruler. So I'm giving you this. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt.
That's really something. If the Lord is with you, you don't know where your station is going to end up. As long as you with the Lord and you keep his laws and commandments. What if Joseph had laid with this Egyptian woman? It wouldn't have happened, sisters and brothers. But servants of God don't break the commandments of God. So he said, look, see, I done put you over the whole of Egypt. Go ahead and read.
We just finished 41.
Okay, skip down to verse 45. Verse 45 and go ahead.
And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphtaph-Phaneah, and he gave him to his wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, and Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt.
So now, Pharaoh gave him an Egyptian name, then he gave him an Egyptian woman to wife, because that's where we got our wives from, sisters and brothers, from among the Hamites. All of us. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt.
Now, to let you know, it was 30 years old. It's something about 30 years old, isn't it? Jesus was 30 years old before he started his ministry. David was 30 years old when he started to be king. So same as Joseph. And he went out and checked out and looked over the whole land of Egypt, because now it was his responsibility. Go ahead and read.
And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field which was round about every city laid he up in the same.
So he went out, and just like he told Pharaoh to do, he did it. I mean, God has some bumper crops, and he laid food up in all kind of storage in all of the cities, because he knew what was going to happen, and he was preparing for it. Skip down to verse 53. Verse 53 and go ahead.
And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended.
Go ahead.
And the 7 years of dearth began to come.
Now here come the 7 years of famine. The good years is over with. Here come the bad years. Go ahead and read.
According as Joseph had said, and the dearth was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread.
So God just didn't bring a famine up on the land of Egypt. He brought it up on the whole area. But in Egypt, there was bread. Why? Because of the wisdom that God had given Joseph. Go ahead and read.
And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, go unto Joseph. What he saith unto you, do.
So when it came to Pharaoh, go to Joseph. Obey him. Go ahead and read.
And the famine was all over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt.
So now the famine was all over the earth. There was nobody that had escaped from it, sisters and brothers, even the land of Canaan. Now let's go and show you. Let's go into Genesis, the 42nd chapter. Genesis chapter 42. Because his father and his brothers and his sister, his whole family was in the land of Canaan. So this drought just didn't stop in Egypt. It was in the whole area. Genesis 42 and verse 1. 42 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another?
Go ahead.
And he said, behold, I have heard that there's corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die.
Go ahead.
And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt.
So now they went in Egypt to buy corn, because there was a drought in the land of Canaan too. But go ahead and read.
But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him.
Because he was scared to send Joseph's young brother, because those was the two, Joseph and Benjamin. Those was Rachel's son. And now he said, I done lost Joseph. Now I ain't going to send his brother with him, because I'm going to lose him too. So he wouldn't let him go. So his brothers went on down, the 10 brothers. Go ahead and read.
And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land.
Go ahead.
And he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth.
Now Joseph had already had a dream that they was going to do this, and he recognized them. So they come before Joseph, and they didn't know who Joseph was. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew him not.
See, he knew them, but they didn't know him. Why is it, Brother Boy, they wouldn't recognize their own? Remember, Joseph was 17 years old when they sold him. Now, he was 30 years old when he got put over the land. And then you had bumper crops, a great prosperity for another 7 years. That would make him 37. And they probably had to go a year or two into the famine before they went down there. So he's probably 36, 37, 38, 39 years old in that age bracket. So, you know, from 17 years old until close to 40, you make a lot of changes in your appearance, especially when he had on Egyptian clothing.
Right.
What verse is that?
We have verse 9.
Go ahead and read.
And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come.
So he got real rough with them. Go ahead.
And they said unto him, nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's son. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. And he said unto them, nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come.
So he had them on the defensive. Because he was messing with them, sisters and brothers, because these are his brothers and they didn't recognize him. Why wouldn't you recognize? At least they should have recognized that he was a Jew or Israelite. If the Israelites are white and the Egyptian was black, they probably would have eased up on him and said, look here, my brother. How is it that you get to run all Egypt and you get to rule all of these black folks and you're white? Never came on their mind. They thought Joseph was an Egyptian, same color, and had on their attire. But skip down to verse 21. Verse 21 and go ahead.
And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us.
So all of a sudden, now their guilt come on them. The ones that talking, look, we finna pay for what we've done. We saw the anguish in Joseph when we were selling them to them Ishmaelites, and we wouldn't even listen to them. We sold them anyway. See, but Reuben thought that he was dead, but they knew he wasn't dead. Then Reuben weighed in. Go ahead and read.
And Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear? Therefore, behold, also his blood is required.
See, now, he thought that Joseph was dead, because when he sneaked back later on to steal Joseph out of the pit and sent him home to his daddy, he got that the pit was empty. So he thought that he was dead. He was real upset about it. So he thought he was dead, but the other 9 brothers knew that he wasn't dead. But they didn't know that that was him that was dealing with them. Go ahead and read. What verse?
Verse 23. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter.
Now, so Joseph played it to the end. He could speak the Hebrew because he was a Hebrew. But he spoke to them to an interpreter, and the interpreter spoke to them in Hebrew. So they're thinking, yep, this is the Egyptian. We don't know what to do with him, but this is the Egyptian. But later on, sisters and brothers, Joseph couldn't deal with it much longer, and he had to reveal himself. Let's go into Genesis, the 45th chapter. Genesis chapter 45. Because we want to take our time and walk up and show you, sisters and brothers, that if we have to go through all this, we want to show you so you will know absolutely what color Israel is. But we don't make statements that we can't back up. So Genesis, the 45th chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Genesis 45 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him. And he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren.
So Joseph cried, and then he told everybody, get out of here. I don't want nobody left here but these guys here. So all his Egyptian servants, because Joseph was a big man in Egypt. In fact, we have a coin to show his picture. It's called he's called him the viceroy of Egypt. So all of them got out. Go ahead and read.
And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard.
So this cat got real emotional, started crying real loud. And the Egyptian heard it. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence.
That is real. That's something, man. He going to tell me the head of all of Egypt going to say that he is our little brother that we sold? There was real trouble. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, not angry with yourselves, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life.
And once he had see, Joseph drug him through a whole lot of changes. You can read that on your own. But he said, look, I'm Joseph. I am the one that you sold. Then they knew that that was him. My father's still living? He said, but don't be angry at yourself. God sent me here to save life. See, God set that whole thing up, sisters and brothers. That's the way the Lord works sometimes. Sometimes he set things up and you think it is all over, but that is when it is about to begin. So now, once he told him that, skip down to verse 9 and let's see, what verse were we at?
We skipped to verse 9.
Skip down to verse 9 and let's see what it said. Go ahead and read.
Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus said thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not.
He said, now I want you to go and tell our father, come quickly. Because Lord, he knew who made him there. He said, God have made him Lord of all Egypt. Not the Pharaoh, because the Lord set it up. He said, now come down to me quickly. Skip down to verse 28. Verse 28, and go ahead.
And Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die.
So now, he took some persuading. They had to show him, look at all these carriers and look at all this stuff that he sent. Then finally, Jacob accepted and said, look, so Joseph, my son, is still alive. So that's when Israel, whose name was changed from Jacob, went down into Egypt. And all of Israel was in Egypt from that time until the time that the Lord brought them out of Egypt. Because they grew into a nation down there, sisters and brothers. But in the meantime, Jacob was in Egypt and he died. And when Jacob died, Joseph mourned for him. Let's go into Genesis, the 50th chapter. Genesis chapter 50. Genesis chapter 50. And when Jacob had told all of his sons what was going to happen to them in the last days. He told every one of them. And then once he got through telling them, he drove his legs up into the bed, I guess, and laid back, and he died. And when he died, Joseph fell upon him, 50 and 1. Genesis 50 and verse 1. Go ahead.
50 and 5?
50. And let's start at verse 5. Genesis 50 and 5. Okay, go ahead.
My father made me swear, saying, lo,
Let's start at verse 1. Back up at verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel.
Go ahead.
And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed.
Go ahead.
And the Egyptians mourned for him 60 days.
Now the Egyptians mourned for him too, because this was the father of the man that had saved all Egypt. Go ahead and read.
And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, if now I have found grace in your eyes,
go ahead.
Speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, lo, I die in my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan. There shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again.
So Joseph made this request to Pharaoh. My father made me swear not to bury him in this country. Take him back to the land of Canaan where his fathers died at, and bury him there. Let me go, and when I get through, I'll come again. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh said, go up and bury thy father, according as he made thee swear.
Go ahead.
And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt.
So now a big entourage went up to bury Jacob, sisters and brothers. All the Israelites, the grown-ups of the Israelites, and also the dignitaries of Egypt went up, because Joseph was a great man in Egypt. But go ahead and read.
And all the house of Joseph and his brethren and his father's house, only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen.
Go ahead.
And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad,
go ahead,
which is beyond Jordan. And there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days.
Now this was in the land of Canaan. This is among the Canaanites. And when the Canaanites saw this great mourning, look what they said. Go ahead and read.
And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, this is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians.
They said, this is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. Finish that.
Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan.
So they named it Abel Mizraim. Abel Mizraim means the mourning of the Egyptians.
That's right.
They didn't say this is a great mourning for the Egyptians and the Israelites, because I'm sure that whatever clothing that Israel was wearing at that time, because they had been down there a long time, but they was looking at the color. And they said, this is a great mourning of the Egyptian. Now let's give you a look at what the Egyptian looked like. Let's put up the picture of Tutankhamun and his grandmother, Queen Ty. Now, this is Tutankhamun. What did he look like? Looked like one of us. That's the one they call King Tut. Okay, show me his throne room. Now, his throne room first. Now, look at this. This is Tutankhamun and his wife. These are black folks, sisters and brothers. Now, show me his grandmother. This is Queen Ty, Tutankhamun's grandmother. Look like she could be either one of our grandmothers, couldn't she? Because we are all the same color, sisters and brothers. We are talking black folk. So when the Canaanites saw the Egyptian and the Israelites mourning, they said this is a great mourning for the Egyptians.
That's right.
They didn't say for the Egyptians and the Israelites. So we see what his grandmama looked like, we see what he looked like, and we look like them. That make us black folks, sisters and brothers. So Ham's children wasn't the only one that's black, so was Shem. Now let's go and into Exodus, the first chapter. Because the time passed when all of the old timers of Israel and Joseph and all of them died, there was a change of attitude toward the Egyptian. Exodus chapter 1. Exodus chapter 1. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. But we're going to look at how that the Lord brought Israel down into Egypt. Exodus chapter 1 and verse 1. 1 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already.
So now, 70 souls that came out of Joseph, out of Jacob. That's talking about his sons and his grandchildren, sisters and brothers. And Joseph was already in Egypt. And remember, Joseph had married an Egyptian woman, and he had 2 sons by him, Ephraim and Manasseh. So Ephraim and Manasseh, what did they make them? That made them Israelites too, didn't it? Because they come out of the son of Israel. But go ahead and read.
And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them.
So we always have a great capacity to have babies, sisters and brothers. So Israel had a whole bunch of children, and the land waxed great with them. There's one thing out of these 70 souls that came down in Egypt, sisters and brothers, 53 of them was unmarried males. So these guys, these grandchildren, which is 53 of them, unmarried males, they came out of Canaanite mothers because Israel married the people that was around them. So now, where did these 53 males get their wives from? From among the Egyptian sisters and brothers. So now it waxed great and become thousands. So even if Israel was white, over 400 and something years, they would have bred it all the white out of it, wouldn't it? Because they got their wife was black, their sons got up and they married men that was black, and their sons married men that was black, women that was black, and their son married women that was black. So somewhere in the generation, white would have fell through the cracks. But go ahead and read. What verse?
Verse 8. Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
Now, they didn't want Israel to go. However, they was afraid of them. So these guys, people just didn't multiply. And we got to do something about these people. Because if we have war, they're going to side with our enemies, they're going to get away from us. So what did he do? Go ahead and read.
Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
Go ahead.
And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses.
So you know who built all these cities then and put together all them pyramids and stuff. Israelites, sisters and brothers. But go ahead and read.
But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
Now, so the more that they afflicted Israel, the more they had babies, sisters and brothers. They couldn't do anything to stop them from having babies. So Pharaoh decided he's going to take another turn. Skip down to verse 15. Verse 15 and go ahead.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him.
Go ahead.
But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
Now, this was something what you call the first form of birth control. But I said it is genocide.
That's right.
Because he said, now, I want to tell you midwives. And I know what a midwife is, sister and brother, because I was delivered by a midwife. Kate Smith, never forget her name. But anyway, they said, if they have a son, kill him. But if they have a daughter, let her live. Why say the daughter? Because if ain't nothing but women, whatever the male is, that's what the baby is. Right. The man carried the seed. So if the Egyptian man had had a child by the Israelite woman, the child would have been Egyptian. This Pharaoh made an attempt to exterminate the whole nation, sisters and brothers. Because if you kill all the males, there will be no more Israelites. Because remember, Jacob's 12 sons got they wives from among Canaanites and Egyptians. And so I hear the old saying of the Jewish people, the people that call themselves us, that if your mother-in-law is a Jew, your grandmother is a Jew, you're a Jew. That's the greatest lie ever been told. You are what your father is.
That's right.
See, but when he told the midwife, they wouldn't do that. What verse was that?
We just finished verse 16.
Go ahead and read.
But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men and children alive.
Go ahead.
And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have you done this thing and have saved the men and children alive?
Look, he wanted to ask, but they told him some kind of commandment, but we ain't going to go with that. Skip down to verse 22. When they found out they wouldn't do it, what did he do? Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive.
And so he took it to his people. Now every son that's born, cast him to the river. Because the rivers, you ever seen movies with the Nile? They talk about the Nile, had them big crocodiles in there.
That's right.
I bet they ate well of young Israelites. But in the meantime, Moses was born. And let's see what happened with him. Let's go into Exodus, the 2nd chapter. Exodus chapter 2, and we're going to start at verse 1. Exodus 2 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink.
Now, so they had Moses, and she could only hide Moses for 3 months. I guess they were closing in on her, so she made a little old bitty boat and put him in the flags of the edge of the river. Probably a lot of, the weeds. Probably the river had waters in it because that's how he got his name. So it was in the water, but it's among the weeds. Go ahead and read.
And his sister stood afar off to wit what would be done to him.
And
the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river.
Go ahead.
And her maidens walked by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child.
Go ahead.
And behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children.
So when she saw Moses, And Moses started to cry. She had compassion. This is one of the Hebrew children. Now Moses' sister kicked in. Go ahead and read.
Then said his sisters to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother.
So what happened was, the daughter went and said, hey, Mom, Pharaoh's daughter have Moses. She wants you to nurse her. Of course, you know his mother was glad to hear that. But go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.
Now, not only is she going to nurse her own child, she going to be under the protection of Pharaoh's daughter, and she going to get paid for it. So as long as she said this is Pharaoh's daughter's son, ain't nobody going to lay a finger on Moses. Now, if Israel was white, they couldn't have got away with that, couldn't they? No kind of way they could have done that. But go ahead and read. What verse?
We're in the middle of verse 9.
Go ahead.
And the woman took the child and nursed it.
And
the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water.
That let me know that little boat was in the Nile's river, but it was sitting among the weeds at the edge of the river. She said, so the Egyptian woman gave Moses the name of Moses. So it's not a Hebrew name. That's an Egyptian name.
Right.
She said, because I brought him, because it's up from the water. Now, can you imagine that now? This Pharaoh got all of his people peeping in all of the Israelite wilderness, looking over all the Israelites' fences so they can see and checking all the babies. And they had to let them check them because they was in charge.
That's right.
They was slaves to the Egyptians. He going through all of that to kill all of the males among Israel. And then his wife, his daughter going to come up and say, look, Dad, look at my baby. She being black and he white. He going to say, girl, what is wrong with you? Where did you get that from? In order for her to get away with it, the baby had to look like her. And I am a grandfather. And I know in the early days when my grandchildren were little old bitty tykes, I know some of the people complain because before class started, I'd be up on the stage and my grandchildren come up there and I'd have them on my knee. Couldn't wait to get them on my knee. I bet Moses was on Pharaoh's knee a many times. But the whole thing is, if the Israelite was white like they are today, and the Egyptians are black, everybody that can read and see know that the Egyptians are black. How could she get away with that? He said, daughter, you must have been drinking or smoking something, or somebody hit you in the head. But no, she became his mother. What verse?
We're at verse 11.
Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting in Hebrew one of his brethren.
Now, Moses' mother raised him until he was weaned. So you know she let him know that he was a Hebrew Israelite.
Right.
But I'm sure the Pharaoh's daughter said, you are the Egyptian. And his mother probably warned him, don't reveal yourself because they're trying to kill you.
Yep.
But when he went out and he spied the Egyptian fighting the Hebrew, one of his brethren, he knew who he was because look what he did to the Egyptian. Go ahead and read.
And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
So when he looked around, thought that nobody was looking at him, he killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. But the problem was Israelites saw him. But we ain't got time to deal with all of that because we have a lot of stuff to deal with. So when he found out that Israel knew that he had slew the Egyptian, Moses ran because he knew Pharaoh was going to find out about it. Skip down to verse 15 and go ahead.
Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well.
So Pharaoh was trying to kill Moses because then he knew who Moses was. So what happened? Moses ran. Go ahead and read.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters,
Uh-huh.
and they came and drew water,
Uh-huh.
and filled the troughs to water their father's flock.
Uh-huh.
And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock.
Now, when he went out to the man of Midian, this one man had daughters only, and when they would draw water, the shepherds would take their water and give their livestock drink. But this time, Moses was there, and Moses rose up on them shepherds, and I guess he whooped them. Go ahead and read.
And when they came to Ruel their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today?
So their father wanted to know. Now, every time you go down to the well, you always come back late. And the reason was because the shepherd would lay there until the women drew that water, then they'd take it from him and water their flock, and the women had to wait until everybody was watered until their time came. But this time Moses was there. Moses rose up on the Egyptian, on the shepherds, and I suppose drove them back, and he watered the girls' stock. And when they went home, their father was wondering, why is it that y'all back here so soon? And they told him. Go ahead and read.
And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherd.
And they said, an Israelite delivered us.
An Egyptian delivered us.
You sure one of these Israelites with Egyptian clothing, they say?
No, they said.
They said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of shepherds. Why did they call him Egyptian? Because we're the same color as the Egyptian sisters and brothers, the children of Ham. But go ahead and read.
An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread.
Now, he said, now, why is this guy that did all this? You shouldn't have left him out there. Call him so he can eat with us. What verse?
We have verse 21.
Go ahead and read.
And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter.
So Moses was running anyway. He was running from Egypt to save his life. He didn't have nowhere else to go, so he stayed with the Midianites. And this guy gave Moses his oldest daughter. So he started working for Jethro because he became his father-in-law. Skip down to verse 23 and read it.
And it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died. And the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage.
Go ahead.
And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage.
So now, after a while, Pharaoh died, and the bondage just got worse and worse on Israel. But when they cried, the Lord heard the cry, and he decided to do something about it. Now let's go into Exodus, the 3rd chapter. Exodus chapter 3. He decided to do something about it because he decided, I'm going to deliver my people. Now, that's when he weighed in and let Moses, and then introduced himself to Moses. Exodus 3 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb.
Now, this, sisters and brothers, let me understand that the place of safety, which is going to be before Mount Horeb,
That's right.
which is Mount Sinai, is in the land of Midian, and instead of being on the Sinai Peninsula, where I have thought for years and years. The one time I was reading this, and finally the Lord opened my eyes on it. If he went to the backside of the desert in the land of Midian to get to Horeb, which is Sinai, then that means that the wilderness is going to be there. That's where Moses and them went when they came out of Egypt.
That's right.
I said, oh, I see now. But what happened when he went there? Go ahead and read.
And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt.
So now the Lord know how to get your attention. He got a bush burning, but the bush is not burning up. So when Moses see it, he wanted to know, why is this bush burning and it's not burning up? That got his attention. Go ahead and read.
And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I.
Go ahead.
And he said, Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground.
So the Lord called to him out the bush, but he called to him by the way of the angels, sisters and brothers, because that's how the Lord communicates, through angels. He do all this work through angels. So he called unto Moses and told him to take your feet off, your shoes off your feet, because you're standing on holy ground. Go ahead and read.
Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
Go ahead.
And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God.
That's the first time that God introduced himself to Moses, sisters and brothers. And he told him who he was. I'm the God of your fathers. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrow.
He said, and heard them. So this is what I want you to do. Skip down to verse 10. Verse 10 and go ahead.
Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt.
So I'm going to send you to bring forth my children out of Egypt. Moses, I'm going to send you. Because he sent an Israelite to deliver an Israelite. And when we was under death sentence because of Adam and Eve, the Lord sent an Israelite by the name of Jesus in the flesh to deliver the Israelites, and in doing so, delivering the whole world. So he said, go on down. But Moses actually kicked against going there. He didn't want to go back. I guess he had got comfortable in the land of Midian. But God had to work on him. And he had to convince him. So we're going to pick this up at Genesis, the 4th chapter. Genesis chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4, I'm sorry. At Exodus, the 4th chapter. Exodus chapter 4. Because Moses didn't go easy. See, the Lord pick his ministers, whether you want to do it or not. If he pick you, you going, sister and brother. And if you try to run away, remember what happened to Jonah. He will do something to you, drop some drama on you, and when the drama come up off you, he'll pick it up off you, and then he's going to tell you, go do what I told you to do. So when the Lord chooses you to go somewhere or do something for him, you cannot deny, even though you might not want to. 4 and 1, because all preachers didn't want to be a preacher. Because you're looking at one. Didn't want to be a preacher. Had no idea of being a preacher. And even when I got caught by the word, it took me 3 years to decide that I'm going to be a preacher. 3 years. So now, he's going to send Moses, and Moses didn't want to go. 4 and 1. Go ahead and read.
And Moses answered and said, But, behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice. For they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee.
Now, these people ain't going to believe me. All of a sudden, 40 years, then I'm away from them.
That's right.
Look at the children that have been born and the one that died since I've been gone. Now I'm going to go back and say, the Lord done sent me? They ain't going to believe me. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto him, What is that in thine hand? And he said, A rod.
Go ahead.
And he said, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it.
See, the Lord tried to show him his power. He turned his staff into a snake. And when it turned to a snake, Moses ran. Yes, but go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Put forth thine hand and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand.
Now, when he grabbed the snake by the tail, it became his staff again. Skip down to verse 6, because he had to give him some more proof. Verse 6, and go ahead.
And the Lord said furthermore unto him, Put now thine hand unto thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow.
Now he told him to put his hand in his bosom. So when Moses put his hand in his bosom, and he took it out, it was leprous as snow. You know what leprous means, sisters and brothers? White. So there are two kinds of leprosy. There's clean leprosy, and there's unclean leprosy. Unclean is when you got sores and boils and stuff. But clean leprosy is merely when you turn white. So now, if you get a white guy put his hand in his bosom and he come out white, It might be a little flush, you know, like you ain't had no suntan, but that won't get his attention.
That's right.
But if I put my hand in my bosom and I bring it out and my hand is white as snow, you just got my attention. I will be ready to do whatever you want me to do. Go ahead and read.
And he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh.
So now, when he got through working on Moses, then Moses was finally convinced to go. God convinced him. So skip down to verse 19. Verse 19, and go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses in Midian, go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life.
That's the same thing he said to Jesus.
That's right.
He said, so return now. All the men are dead that sought their life. So that old Pharaoh that tried to kill Moses, he was dead. Go ahead and read.
And Moses took his wife and his sons and set them upon an ass, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the rod of God in his hand. And the Lord said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hand.
Go ahead.
But I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go.
He said, now I want you to go and tell Pharaoh. Do all of these miracles that I showed you. But I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart. He ain't going to listen to you. In other scripture, it tell you that he wanted to harden his heart because he said, I want to lay my hands on Egypt. Because the Egyptians had really dogged the Israelites out, and God wanted to do something to them. He said, so he ain't going to listen to you. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn.
What's it mean his son is firstborn? Because when the Lord adopted Israel, Jacob's name was Jacob. So he adopted him, and when you adopt somebody, you don't let them retain their own name, you give them your name. And one of God's name. And listen to me, pay attention. And one of God's name is Israel, sisters and brothers. Not all of them. So he gave him the name of Israel. Go ahead and read. He said, now Israel is my son, even my firstborn. Why? What does firstborn imply? It implies that he is going to adopt some more. And he is, sisters and brothers. He is going to adopt all the sons of Adam. And the big adoption is going to go on during the millennium period, but you have some right now that are becoming spiritual Israel. And when they do, they are part of the adoption. But go ahead and read.
And I say unto thee, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn.
He said, let my son go. Because if you don't, I'm going to kill your son, even your firstborn. And after the Lord brought 9 plagues upon Israel, the 10th plague, he did exactly what he said. I'm going to kill your son, your firstborn. And let's see when that happened. Let's go into Exodus, the 12th chapter. Exodus chapter 12. Because the Lord said, Israel is my son. If you don't let my son go, he is my firstborn. And if you don't let my son go, I'm going to kill your son, even your firstborn. Took 9 plagues. In fact, it took 10 plagues for Pharaoh to let God's son go, which is Israel. That's the first one. The second one, he said he called his son was Jesus, but that's a different thing altogether. So after that 10th plague, when that 10th plague fell on them, sisters and brothers, Pharaoh let the people go. And here's when it happened. Exodus 12 and verse 1. Exodus 12 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Go ahead.
It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, and the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Go ahead.
And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your account for the lamb.
Go ahead.
Your lamb shall be without blemish. a male of the first year, you shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats.
So now you want you to put this lamb up. He's going to be a male of the first year. Got to be the firstborn, and it got to be perfect. Can't have no blemish, none whatsoever. Go ahead and read.
And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
Now you're going to put this lamb up on the 10th day, and you're going to kill him on the 14th day. That's when the sun go down. That's the beginning of the day, which is the 14th. Go ahead and read.
And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door post of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
So you're going to take the blood of this lamb. You're going to put it on the side post and the upper door post. Why did he want us to do that? Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12, and let's see. Go ahead and read.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
Both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord.
The Lord told Pharaoh that he was going to kill his firstborn, didn't he? So he said, I'm going to pass through Egypt this night, and I'm going to smite the firstborn of every male and animal in Egypt. But look what he said. Go ahead and read.
And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are.
And the blood shall be upon you for a token of the houses where you are. Just like the circumcision is a token of the covenant. Ain't this what the book said? So the blood shall be a token of you upon the houses where you are. Go ahead and read.
And when I see the blood.
And when I see the Israelite.
When I see the blood.
When I see the evil.
When I see the blood.
When I see the righteous.
When I see the blood.
Pay attention, sisters and brothers. When I see the blood. Go ahead and read.
I will pass over you.
I will pass over you. It wasn't for nothing that the Lord didn't say, and when I see the blood on the houses of the Israelites. Right. He said, when I see the blood. Because whoever put the blood over their doorpost, that means that they believe Moses. Right. But it's obvious none of the Egyptians did it. But they could have. And when that death angel come through there, God had already commanded him. Any house that have blood on it, don't kill the firstborn in that house. He said, I'm going to pass over you. Go ahead and read.
And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
And I'm not going to kill the people in there. Now skip down to verse 29. Verse 29. And go ahead.
And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne.
Go ahead.
Unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon. And all the firstborn of cattle.
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead.
See, the Egyptians didn't believe Moses. So they didn't put the blood over. See, I know that Moses was telling the people because he told them in other instances, and some of them listened and brought their cattle in, and they wasn't killed. So when he came through there, he said that there was not a house, that there was not one dead. Then Pharaoh rose up now. He wanted to get rid of Moses. Go ahead and read.
And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people,
go ahead.
Both ye and the children of Israel, and go and serve the Lord as ye have said.
Go ahead.
Also take your flocks and your herds as ye have said, and be gone.
Go ahead.
And bless me also. And the Egyptians were urging upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we be all dead men.
So Pharaoh rose up and said, get out of here. Take everything you want. He said, also bless me. In other words, I want you to pray for me. Well, people say, well, Pharaoh's going to get cut off. We don't know that. God said he was going to harden his heart. If God hardened your heart, what can you do?
Right.
You got to do what he wants you to do. But the Egyptians was urgent upon the Israelites to get out of there. Because as long as these Israelites here, we are all dead men. Because it's rough when you wake up in the night and every house got a dead body in it. The Lord didn't kill them. Everybody went to sleep in peace and woke up. You got a dead body. But skip down to verse 37 and go ahead.
And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Sukkah,
Uh-huh.
about 600,000 on foot that were men beside children.
Now, 600,000 males besides children. Go ahead and read.
And the mixed multitude went up also with them,
Uh-huh.
and flocks and herds, even very much cattle.
Now, so there was a mixed multitude went with them, sisters and brothers. So a whole lot of other people believed that God of Israel too. Mm-hmm. And they went out when the Lord sprung Israel, they went among them. And this is a message to us in these last days. That when the Lord deliver, you're going to have a whole lot of other people that are not Israelites going to be among us because they're going to believe in the same God of Israel that we believe in. I mean the true and living God. So skip down to verse 40 and go ahead.
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years.
Now, they was down in Egypt for 430 years. That's where the error is being taught nowadays about us in America. We're going to be here for 400 years and we're going to be sprung. I got news for you, sisters and brothers. Check your dates. Mm-hmm. We're beyond 430 years and the show is here and we are still here. Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody taught you something wrong. That 430 years or that 400 years that he told Abraham about, sisters and brothers, that was talking about in the land of Egypt, which is the land of Ham. And people try to make things like he said 400, afflicted for 400 years. They weren't afflicted for 400. We're not going to even get off into that. We know that this was the time.
Right.
And you can go into Hebrews, and Hebrews would co-sign that it was the time.
That's right.
But now, let's go in the 105th chapter of Psalms. 105th chapter of Psalms. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. But think about it, sisters and brothers. Jacob went out to Egypt. There were 70 people that had come out of his loins. 53 of those males, of those was unmarried Hebrew males. Mm-hmm. And they got their wives from among the Egyptians. Now you went from 53 males to 600,000 males, not including the women and the children. Not including the women, sisters and brothers. Like I said earlier, if Israel was white, there ain't none left in them. Because all of the whiteness have been bred out of him. So if you a white Israelite, no problem. But you didn't come from among the children of Israel that came out of Egypt. Because they got their children from among the Hamites, which is Egyptian. Psalms 105. Psalms 105. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. See, people try and make this racist because you teach the Bible. No. If the Lord didn't want us to teach this, it wouldn't be in here. Somebody got to teach. Well, this sounds racist, so we're going to leave it alone. It got nothing to do with it. Just like the Lord had a mixed multitude come out with Egypt, Israel, when they sprung them from Egypt, there's going to be a mixed multitude among us that believe in this true and living God. And what we ought to do is to teach him to believe in our God so we can save ourselves and him too. That is the mission that God sent us on. But we have to clear up these other little matters first of who is Israel and what he looked like. Psalm 105 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
Give thanks unto the Lord. Call upon his name. Make known his deeds among the people.
Now, do that. Give thanks unto the Lord. Make known his name, what the Lord have done among the people. Let them know how great. Let them know how great God is. Skip down to verse 5 and read it.
Remember his marvelous works that he hath done, his wonders, and the judgments of his mouth.
He said, remember him. Look what he did concerning Israel. Skip down to verse 16 and go ahead.
Moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread.
See, he sent Joseph down there, and then he told Joseph how to save Egypt. Then he brought a drought on the land. So Joseph could spring into action, and the Lord could show them that it is him that's working down there. Go ahead and read.
He sent a man before them, even Joseph,
Uh-huh.
who was sold for a servant.
Go ahead.
Whose feet they hurt with fetters.
Uh-huh.
He was laid in iron.
Go ahead.
Until the time that his word came, the word of the Lord tried him.
Uh-huh.
The king sent and loosed him, even the ruler of the people, and let him go free.
So now, when Joseph went out there, he passed from a house servant to a convict, and he said he was laid in iron. So he had irons on his feet. But still, the Lord was with him until the time came that he sent him down there to do the service that he sent him to do. Go ahead and read.
He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his substance.
So he made him lord of a man and ruler of everything. Go ahead and read.
To bind his princes at his pleasure.
Wait a minute. You mean Joseph could bind Egyptians?
Yes.
If he wanted to?
That's right.
Pharaoh gave him absolute power except for in the throne.
That's right.
So whatever you want to do, you can do it. Just deliver us from this drought.
That's right.
Because I'm scared of them two dreams that I had.
Right.
Go ahead and read.
And teach his senators wisdom.
Oh, so them wise Egyptians, they had somebody to teach them, didn't they? Joseph taught his senators wisdom. That's a whole lot of stuff for a guy that was sold when he was 17, unless the Lord was with him, sisters and brothers.
Right.
So he taught his politicians wisdom. Go ahead and read.
Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham.
So when Israel came into Egypt, Israel is Jacob, so that means they lived in the land of Ham.
That's right.
Because Egypt is Ham's second oldest son, Mizraim. They're black, sisters and brothers. Go ahead and read.
And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies.
Go ahead.
He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants.
Now, he increased Israel and he turned the Egyptians hard to hate them, but then so they would put them in slavery, and what happened? Go ahead.
He sent Moses, his servant, and Aaron, whom he had chosen. They showed his signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham.
So they showed his sign among the Egyptians and wonders in the land of Ham. Let's show you who Ham's children are. We have a clip in here, a biblical dictionary. What's the name of it?
New Compact Bible Dictionary.
New Compact Bible Dictionary. We didn't write it. I'm pretty sure you can go on the internet and you can get you one of these dictionaries called the New Compact Bible Dictionary. And what did this dictionary say concerning Ham? Go ahead.
Ham, the youngest son of Noah.
Ham, the youngest son of Noah. I think Shem is Japheth is the youngest son of Noah. I think that Gentiles are always putting themselves on top because this was done by Gentiles. But we ain't going to question the fact. He's the son of Ham. Go ahead and Noah, go ahead and read.
Born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
Go ahead.
That's Genesis 10,
Read it
6
again.
through 20.
Read it again, real slow.
The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes.
Oh, so where do we come from? Wherever we came from, it didn't come out of Ham.
Right.
We didn't write this dictionary. He's the progenitor of the dark races. We got any more left of that?
Not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
But the Egyptian, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, but not the sons of Ham.
Not the Negroes.
Not the Negroes, sisters and brothers. That's called African Americans now, Afro-American. So he said, Ethiopian? Give me a picture of an Ethiopian. Put the philosophy up there. This is an Israelite, but this is what an Ethiopian looked like. We're going to do this at least twice. That don't look white to me. Then put me a Hamite up there, an Egyptian. It said Egyptian, didn't it? Put Tutankhamun back up there. Don't look white either, do it? Mm-hmm. So now, the dictionary let us know that, look, we did not come out of Ham. We are not African Americans. We are Hebrew Israelites, which are citizens of America. But we are the people that looks like the Egyptians and also all of the sons of Ham. Now, I want to show you something now. When Jesus came on the scene, I'm going to show you what happened here. Let's go into Matthew, the 2nd chapter. Matthew chapter 2. Because Jesus was a Hebrew Israelite. Don't you know the world don't know that? The world think that Jesus was, I guess, a Greek, huh? They said Jew, but all the pictures we see, they're white. But we're going to go and we're going to do a little thing here. Let's go into Matthew, the 2nd chapter. Matthew chapter 2, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Matthew 2 and verse 1. Matthew 2, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. 2 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem.
Now, it didn't say how many, just wise men, didn't it? Go ahead and read.
Saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him.
Now, he didn't say, where is my personal Savior? They said, where is he that is born king of the Jews? Because Jesus is the future king of Israel. Go ahead and read.
When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
So Herod was troubled, and when you find out about this Herod, when he's troubled, somebody died. That's why they was worried too. But skip down to verse 7, and what happened?
Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, bring me word again that I may come and worship him also.
Now, he said, why don't you go and search diligently, told these wise men, because I want to worship him. But the Lord let him know, no, he want to kill him. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12 and go ahead.
And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way.
Now, so they went another way. Go ahead and read.
And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
Now, you know, if Jesus was white, they should have sent him to Rome, shouldn't it?
That's right.
But no, he sent him down in Egypt. Because Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. Go ahead and read.
When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. And was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son.
Now look, sisters and brothers, he didn't send him to Egypt to protect him. He sent him to Egypt to hide him. Because the Egyptians, because the Romans rather set Herod and made him king over Jerusalem. And all Herod had to do was appeal to Rome, and they would have sent Jesus back. Let's look at this and show you this. Let's look in Great People of the Bible, page 301. And let's see who was in charge of the area at that time. Great People of the Bible, page 301. Go ahead and read.
Palestine in the time of Jesus. When Jesus was born in 6 BC, Palestine had been under Roman control for more than half a century. In 63 BC, Pompey put the area under the control of the new Roman province of Syria. And in 40 BC, Rome designated Herod king of Judea, which meant nearly the whole of Palestine. Herod reigned until his death in 4 BC.
Now, if Herod, all he had to do, because he was set up by the Romans, all he had to do was tell Egypt, you got this family down here that just showed up, I want you to send them back. And they probably would have been back in Jerusalem before he got through talking.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Lord sent them down there, he sent them down there to hide them, because they was just another black family among many other black families.
Mm-hmm.
But if they was white, let me show you what they would have looked like. Give me this picture here with a picture of Jesus down in Egypt. Now look at this picture, sisters and brothers. How could you hide this? You got all these Egyptians, look what they look like. All of a sudden now Jesus showed up. You can't hide. All Pharaoh would have had to say was, look here. Herod would have had to say was, look here. Then there's a white family that showed up. I want him back. They wouldn't have had to do secret search, wouldn't they? The guy stands out like a sore thumb, don't he? Because that's what it would have looked like if he had taken Jesus down into Egypt to hide him. So he wouldn't have sent him to Egypt. You know what he would have sent him to? He would have sent him to Rome somewhere among the Europeans. And then it would have been just another white family among many white families. They would never have known that they was Joseph, Mary, and Jesus.
That's right.
So now, he sent them down there to hide them, sisters and brothers. Now, I want to show you something else, too. Let's go into Acts, the 21st chapter. I want to show you a famous apostle, the Apostle Paul. Everybody knew about the Apostle Paul, especially the Gentiles. But maybe there's one thing that the Gentiles don't know about the Apostle Paul that we're going to show today. Acts 21. Let's go into Acts chapter 21. And we're going to start reading at verse 37. This is when the Jews was trying to kill Paul. And the Romans had to come down there and take him by force. Because Israelites didn't like Paul, sisters and brothers. And when I read some of the writing, if I don't have some understanding, I can see why. But Peter warned you about Paul's writing. Say it's hard to understand. And there are those that twist it his writing as they do other scripture. So if you don't have no understanding, you can run into some real problem with Paul. So we're going into Acts chapter 21, rather. Acts 21, and we're going to start reading at verse 37. Acts 21, and we're going to start reading at verse 37. 21 and 37. Acts 21 and verse 37. Okay, go ahead.
And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? Who said, canst thou speak Greek?
Now, once they had rescued Paul from them Jews, and he was being led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto you? And look at this guy said, can you speak Greek?
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
Art not thou that Egyptian, which before the days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers?
Look, ain't you that Egyptian that led how many?
4,000 men.
4,000 men that was murdered. Why did he call Paul an Egyptian, sisters and brothers? Because Paul looked like an Egyptian. Let's bring something else to mind, too, since we're here. Because the brothers are teaching that wearing fringes is an Israelite custom. If that Greek captain had looked at Paul, and Paul wore fringes, and all the rest of the Israelites around there wore fringes, then he would have known that he wasn't an Egyptian, wouldn't he?
That's right.
He would have known that he was a Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
But Paul didn't wear fringes, or none of the other wore fringes, because God removed that under the new covenant, because he said he's going to put his laws in your mind, write them in your inward parts. You ain't going to wear fringes no more to remind you to keep the commandments, because I'm going to put them in your head. So why did he think that Paul was an Egyptian? Because Paul looked like an Egyptian. Didn't necessarily have the Egyptian clothes on either. Right. But go read the next verse.
But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus.
So we know he was a Benjamite, but he explained himself to what they understood.
That's right.
Because when you said Hebrew Israelite, people don't understand it, but when you said Jew, oh, Jew, huh? Okay. But go finish that verse.
I'm a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city of Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto this people.
Now he had to do that. This guy thought he was an Egyptian. But it's funny, sisters and brothers. The Lord did not liken us to the Egyptian. He likened us to another son of Ham. Let's see who that son was. Let's go into Amos, the 9th chapter. Because it looked like the Lord should have said, should have likened us to the Egyptian, because that's who we have been interacting with all this time. The Greeks thought that Paul was an Egyptian. The Midianites thought that Moses was an Egyptian. Pharaoh, when Moses was his grandson, thought he was an Egyptian. Right. So why all of a sudden the Lord is going to shift gears on us and liken us to somebody else? And let's see who that somebody else is. Let's go into Amos, the 9th chapter. Amos chapter 9. Amos chapter 9. Because the Lord is foreseeing, sisters and brothers, he knows what's going to happen. He knows what the future's going to bring. And he knows people are going to be switched around. Names going to be changed. And he fixed that. And we're going to show you. Amos 9, and we're going to read one verse. We're going to read verse 7. Amos 9 and verse 7. Okay, read it.
Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me?
Are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me? Go ahead and read.
O children of Israel.
O children of Israel. Go ahead.
Saith the Lord. Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt?
We know he did, don't we? Go ahead.
And the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Ker.
Now everything he said, but look who he likened us to. Are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, said the Lord. So he didn't liken us to Egyptian. He likened us to Ethiopians, the children of Cush, which are black also. But why did he do that? Because the Lord knew that something was going to happen in the future. And let's see what is going to happen. We're going to go to the history books the last 2 million years. And we're going to read up to page 381, and we're going to read passages 1 and 2. Okay, read it.
Is Islamic rule from 639 to 1798.
Islamic rule, which comes from the children of Ishmael, which are Arabs. Go ahead and read.
During the rise of the great Islamic Arab Empire, Egypt was speedily conquered by the Arabs between AD 639 and 642.
So the Arabs conquered Egypt. Go ahead.
Right. Since the 7th century, Egypt has been an Arab country, a main center of Islamic life and religion. Keep going.
So was that it?
That was it.
Now, since the 7th century, the Arabs have owned Egypt. So the people that they calling Egyptian now don't look like the artifacts that they have over there. And God foresaw this where that's going to happen in the future. Instead of likening us to Egyptian, he likened us to Ethiopians. Because when you look over now, you'll see Arabs. But when you look in Ethiopia, you don't see nobody, no whites, or no other color, but black folks that calling themselves Ethiopians. And let's show you one of the pictures of the Danites, of philosophers in Ethiopia. Look the same. We put it up once, put it back up. I want to show it to you. Go ahead and read. Now go ahead and put it up, brother. This is what an Ethiopian looked like. But this is not an Ethiopian. This is a Hebrew Israelite out of the tribe of Dan, sisters and brothers. So now we know that Israel looked like the Egyptian and the ancient Egyptian and the Ethiopians, which are black folks, sisters and brothers. So when everybody steal your records, everybody steal your pictures, everybody strip you of everything that you would connect you with your forefathers, then you have to connect yourself with some people that you have interacted with. Most of our women in building a nation was built out of Egyptian women. And the elders, like the apostles, they got theirs from among the Canaanites. We have scripture to do that, but we can't read everything, sisters and brothers. So now, when you look at this Bible and you see the children of Israel, now you see that this Bible is our history, sisters and brothers, because it's written about what has befallen us, written about where we came from, where we're going, and who we are, and what we was chosen for. This book that's called the Holy Bible is our history, sisters and brothers. All of these guys, the prophets was black. All the apostles were black. But when you get to modern day ministers, I'm talking about especially our black ministers, when they want to show black in the Bible with great pride, all of them go to the same place. And let's go and show you that. They're going to go here to show you black in the Bible. Let's go into Acts, the 13th chapter. And probably a lot of them doing Black History Month. We're going to show you black in the Bible. Let's examine this. Acts 13, and we're going to read one verse. Verse 1. Acts 13 and verse 1. Acts 13 and verse 1. We want you to see where all of the black ministers go, the ones that go there, to show you black. 13 and 1. Read it.
Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon that was called Niger.
There it is. It's Barnabas and Simeon that was called Niger. Mm-hmm. Niger means black, sisters and brothers. But finish that.
And Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul.
Now, we're going to show you, sisters and brothers, everybody here was black. Niger probably just was blacker than the rest of them. Because we got some guys that we call black. We got some brothers that we call blue. They were so black. But everybody here was an Israelite. Why? Because that is the protocol. Let's go to Amos, the 3rd chapter, and show you what I mean. Amos chapter 3. Because before you can tell people to listen to the priest, you got to find out who the priests are. And the proof is in the pudding. When the priests went blind, some got lost, and the ones that didn't get lost power and voice. The world's been taught by the Gentiles and the strangers. And what you have now, sisters and brothers, is everything but the word of God. Don't nobody know it because nobody bothers to investigate. They just don't bother. But we're going to show you why it is that we know that this Niger was an Israelite. Amos, the 3rd chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. Amos 3, verses 1 and 2. Okay, go ahead.
Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity.
He said, hear this word, O Israel. I'm talking about you Israelites that I brought up out of Egypt. You only have I known. Only is an absolute name. Right. Out of all the families of the earth, Therefore, I'm going to punish you for every one of your iniquities. That's why we can't get away with nothing. Young white go out and do something. They send him home to his parent, or they slap him home and put a misdemeanor on him, which is nothing. But a young black go out and do something, however small it is, they put him in jail and they're going to slap him with a felony. Now he can't get out and get a job because he got a felony hanging on him. So he don't have but one recourse: killing and stealing and going back to jail. And he become another form of commodity after slavery have been abolished. But the Lord said, you only have I known out of all the families of the earth. Back up to the second chapter of Amos. Back up to the second chapter of Amos. And we're going to read verse 6 and skip down. Amos 6, 2 and 6. Amos 2 and verse 6. Okay, read it.
Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof.
Go ahead.
Because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes.
We did a little selling too, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We did a little wrong too, but skip down to verse 9 and go ahead.
Yet destroyed I the Amorite before them.
He said, yet I destroyed the Amorites before them. Go ahead.
Whose height was like the height of the cedar. And he was strong as the oaks.
Go ahead.
Yet I destroyed his fruit from above and his roots from beneath.
That's the first people that the Lord, that Moses them knocked off when they come up out of Egypt, was the Amorites. Go ahead and read.
Also I brought you up from the land of Egypt and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorites.
Go ahead.
And I raised up your sons for prophets.
I raised up your sons among the sons of the prophets.
No, your sons for prophets.
I raised up your sons for prophets. Go ahead and read.
And of your young men for Nazarites. Is it not even thus, O ye children of Israel, saith the Lord?
He said, and your young men for Nazarites. All the prophets and the Nazarites the Lord raised up, they was from among the children of Israel, sisters and brothers. So this Nijah could not be a prophet or a teacher in Israel, because the Lord said, I raised up your sons for prophets. And when Israel did some teaching, they only taught Israelites. Let me show you what I'm saying. Let's go into Acts the 11th chapter. Acts chapter 11. Because when you know the protocol, you know what can and cannot be. Not what I want or not what anybody else wants. It is what God wants. And he set this whole thing up, sisters and brothers. I know a lot of Gentiles that got a lot of zeal, and God knows I wish I could send them teaching because they want to go. Some of them jumping up and down. I want to do it, send them out to teach, but I can't do it. You know why? Because the protocol is God. I'm not going to do something that the angel is too scared to do. That angel that the Lord sent to Cornelius, he could have taught Cornelius and sent Cornelius to the other Gentile, but no. The angel told him, you go to 1 Peter. He will tell you what you ought to do. Peter the Israelite. So when Israel was teaching, God had to tell him when to start teaching, because the Lord told him what not to do. But first, let's look at Acts 11th chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 19. Acts 11 and 19. Because after they had killed Stephen, the apostles, not the apostles, the disciples, because the 12 still stayed in Jerusalem, the disciples were scattered all over. And let's see who they was teaching. Go ahead and read.
Now they which were scattered abroad upon the persecution that rose about Stephen traveled as far as Phoenice and Cyprus and Antioch, preaching the word to none but unto the Jews only.
They wouldn't teach nobody else but the Jews, sisters and brothers. Go ahead and read.
And some of them were men of Cyprus and Cyrene, which, when they were come to Antioch, spake Jesus.
But what Grecian? The Grecian Jews, sisters and brothers, not Gentile, because they wouldn't even teach nobody else, because they had a directive, and we're going to show you that. Skip down to verse 22 and go ahead.
Then tidings of these things came unto the ears of the church which was in Jerusalem.
Uh-huh.
And they sent forth Barnabas that he should go as far as Antioch.
Now, when they heard about these Jews, when the 12 apostles heard about all these Jews that these disciples was converting, then they sent Barnabas, the co-signer. Skip down to verse 23 and go ahead.
25.
25 and go ahead. I'm sorry, verse 25 and go ahead.
Then departed Barnabas to Tarshish for to seek Saul.
Go ahead.
And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch, and it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch.
Now, Barnabas got Paul first because everybody was afraid of Paul because Paul was a great persecutor of the church. And when the Lord converted him, he went out in Arabia for 3 years. Then he went back to Tarsus and taught whoever would listen, but everybody else was scared of Paul because Paul made havoc of the church. But Barnabas went and got him, and he brought him back, and he took him to Antioch. And it was in Antioch where the disciples was first called Christian. And sisters and brothers, when they was first called Christian, there was not a non-Israelite in the church. Therefore, Niger had to be an Israelite.
That's right.
He could not be anything else and call himself hanging out with the Jews because they wouldn't deal with nobody else but Israelites, sisters and brothers. Nobody else. And I'm going to show you why they wouldn't. Let's go to Matthew, the 10th chapter. This nobody's read to you either, sisters and brothers. People read a lot of Bible, but they won't read you other stuff that contradict what they have been teaching. Matthew chapter 10. And this is what Jesus did before he left. Matthew 10, and this is while he was on earth, just prior to him, before he left. He was in the flesh. And I'm going to show you the commandment that he gave his apostles. Matthew 10 and 1. Matthew 10 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease.
Now, these are 12 disciples, which came to 12 apostles. He gave them power to do their work, but he gave them also a commandment too. Skip down to verse 5 and let's read this commandment. Go ahead and read.
These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying.
And look, Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying.
That's right.
That means this ain't no suggestion.
That's right. Commanded.
He commanded them, saying. Go ahead and read.
Go not into the way of the Gentiles.
Go not into the way of the Gentiles. Go not into the way of the Gentiles. Go ahead and read.
And into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not.
And into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. Because the Samaritan was not Israelite either. That's why the woman told Jesus at the well, why you being a Jew speaking to me?
That's right.
You Jews don't have no dealings with the Samaritan because they were not Israelite. He said, go not in the way of the Gentiles. And don't go down into no city of Samaria. But this is where I want you to go. Go ahead and read.
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Who are these lost sheep? That was the 9 tribes that the Assyrians took out. Because when the Lord split the nation after Solomon's death, you had Judah and you had Benjamin together. Then Jeroboam got scared of the people going up and keeping the high days that they might lack Rehoboam and come back and kill him and reunite the kingdom. So he turned around and he set up his own animal sacrifice. He set up his own priesthood. He fired the Levites. So the Levites went back to Judah. So now you had 3 tribes, Levi, Judah, and Benjamin. Out of those 3 tribes, we came out of. I don't know what we are. I might be a Levite. I might be a Benjamite. Or I might be a Jew. Or Brother Boo, I thought Jew was everybody. No, a Jew is only the one that came out of the tribe of Judah. We know that because we was not converted. We know that it's not a religion. It is the name of one that comes out of the tribe of Judah. So God said, go not the way of Gentiles. But we got my Hebrew brothers, some of them saying that the Gentile, the 9 tribes that was taking the northern kingdom are Gentiles. No, they're not. Because they think that God ain't going to save nobody but Israelite. So they done made the 9 tribes Gentile. They done made Cornelius an Israelite. Sister and brother, the Lord is going to save all of the sons of Adam that will be saved. I don't care what color he is. So the Lord Jesus told his apostles, and they pass it on down. I don't want y'all going and teaching no Gentile. I don't want you going and teaching no Samaritans, which are among the strangers that the Assyrians put in the land once he took the 9 tribes out of the land. I only want y'all to go and teach the lost tribes of Israel. That's why them Jews, after the death of Stephen, scattered all over the creation, teaching none other but Jews. Because Jesus commanded them, sisters and brothers. That's why the Lord had to prepare Peter when he got ready to send him to the Gentiles. That's when he went up with the sheep, with the unclean animals and all, and told Peter, rise, clean, and kill and eat. And Peter told them, told the Lord, look, Lord, I haven't eaten anything common or unclean in my life. And later on, God sent Cornelius to Peter, and Cornelius' servants came, and the Lord told the angel, told him to go with him. And he went with Cornelius' servants, and he went into the house of Gentiles. And what did Peter say to the Gentiles? Don't y'all know that it is an unlawful thing for one who is a Jew to come in and keep company with any other nation? But the Lord hath shown me not to call any man common or unclean. And when Peter got back after teaching them Gentiles, the rest of them apostles was mad, and they argued with Peter. And Peter had to tell them all what the Lord had done. Right. Why? Because they knew this commandment too, when he said, go not in the way of the Gentile. And I'm going to tell you something. All Israel followed that, and that's let me know that this guy was an Israelite. Let's go and look at this guy. Nigel was an Israelite, but there's somebody else that's an Israelite too. Let's go into Acts, the 8th chapter. Because they were still under this commandment, sisters and brothers, before the Lord let Peter out of it. And I'm sure the Lord did it because Israel was blind. How you going to send the blind somewhere to teach the blind? You had to get this priest back in order.
That's right.
We had to learn before we can go teach somebody. We got too many people running around right now that know nothing, but they're teaching. God don't work like that. He said he prepared his servants. Acts 8, and we're going to start at verse 26. Acts chapter 8 and verse 26. Okay, go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, arise, and go toward the south unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is desert.
Now the angel told Philip to go down, and remember now, this is after the Israelites have been scattered all over creation, teaching for Jews only, but go ahead and read.
And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, an eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship.
Now, what was this Ethiopian doing coming to Jerusalem to worship? But go ahead and read. Let's see what Philip did. Go ahead.
Was returning and sitting in his chariot, read Isaiah the prophet.
Now, what's he doing reading Isaiah the prophet? Right. Go ahead and read.
Then the Spirit said unto Philip, go near and join thyself to this chariot. And Philip ran thither to him and heard him read the prophet Isaiah and said, understandest thou what thou readest?
So Philip asked him, do you understand what you're reading? Go ahead.
And he said, how can I? Except some man should guide me. And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him.
And Philip did it. And Philip taught him. And Philip baptized him. Why was Philip breaking God's commandments? Jesus' commandment. If this guy was a stranger, he wasn't breaking his commandment because this guy was an Ethiopian. And he was reading Isaiah, which was probably written in Hebrew. But the question is, why was he up there worshiping, sisters and brothers? Why? I'm going to tell you why. Let's go into Deuteronomy, the 23rd chapter. This is the last place. Deuteronomy chapter 23. 16, I'm sorry. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy 16. Because the Lord gave commandments, sisters and brothers. And no matter where they are, he wants these commandments to be kept. Deuteronomy 16 and verse 16. Deuteronomy 16 and verse 16. Okay, read it.
3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose.
3 times a year shall all of your males appear before the Lord thy God in the place that he shall be choose. Go ahead and read.
And the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks,
go ahead,
and in the feast of tabernacles,
and the feast of unleavened bread, the feast of weeks, which is Pentecost, and the feast of tabernacles. Go ahead.
And they shall not appear before the Lord empty.
And they shall not appear before the Lord empty. So, sisters and brothers, Israel was scattered all over. And we just show you a couple of pictures. Now let's show you. We're going to look at the first. We're going to look at the Danites. And we're going to read a little bit about the Danites. Let's put up the philosopher picture again. And I want you to read some of this about the Danites. Okay. It says the historians see philosophers as a possible descendants of the Israel tribe of Dan. I will read that.
Read that area.
Uh-huh.
Historians see philosophers as possible descendants from Israel's tribe of Dan.
Uh-huh.
What? You a philosopher? You are laughing at us?
Now, who did he say that to? Go ahead.
Are there any white philosophers?
Uh-huh. That's why when you got this little white that called himself a Jew, telling I'm a Jew too, they said, what? Are you laughing at us? Are there any white philosophers?
Right.
They didn't know no such animal. Go ahead and read.
That was the way the people of Beta Israel greeted French Semitic scholar Joseph Halevi upon his arrival in Ethiopia in the last century.
Go ahead.
Jews are black, not white, they said.
Now, these guys here, they didn't lose, they knew who they were.
That's right.
They didn't lose track. They knew they wasn't Ethiopians.
That's right.
They knew they was among the Ethiopians. They looked like the Ethiopians, but they was not. These Jews are black, not white. Keep reading.
Jews are black, not white, they said. They said the same to Halevi's students, Jacques Fatlevich, who became founder of the American Pro-Philosophy Committee. Baruch Tegni, 38, a philosopher now living in Montreal, memorized the Torah at his grandfather's knee. Long ago, the rabbis declared we are Jews like everybody, Tegni said. What's so bad? We keep the original Jewish religion. We didn't change it. I think we may be better.
Of course, because they are the original Israelites, and they're not these Jews. Now I want to show you what the Israelites in Nigeria. These are the Igbos, sisters and brothers. So I want you to read just some of it there. Go ahead and read it. Put up the picture of the Igbos. Go ahead.
The Nigerian Jewish claim was bolstered several years ago with the discovery in the area of an onyx stone reportedly bearing the name Gad in ancient Hebrew. But to be officially recognized as Jewish is a tedious process. Israel granted that recognition to the philosophers only after careful vetting. The Abadikadas underwent a conservative conversion 6 years ago, a path the Igbos are reluctant to embrace.
So the Igbos didn't want to embrace that because they knew better. Go ahead.
Their reasoning is simple. To convert would undercut their claim to be Jewish by ancestry. We are Israelites.
Uh-huh.
This is our identity.
We are Israelites. This is our identity. That's what these guys said that you're looking at. Go ahead.
And our religion is Judaism.
And our religion is Judaism, but go ahead.
So being denied inclusion into the Jewish family makes us feel lost, said Michael Ginka, a 53-year-old accounting teacher. We are trying to come back to Judaism. We were lost for a long time through drifting and scattering. And we are just reaching out to be educated. There is no yeshiva, no rabbi here. So we are in a dungeon.
And so now these guys knew that there was Israelites. But I had one more that I overlooked, and that is the Jews of Timbuktu. Do we have some on the Jews of Timbuktu, sisters, brothers? I want you to put it up. Jews of Timbuktu. Can you come up with the picture? Because this is something that's real important. But we're going to start at the top.
Where you want me to start?
They're going to start at the top. Now, if we don't have no pictures of it, then we should, let me see if we can put the camera up there. Okay, come on with it. Because I want to read this. Because we here don't understand what we look at, that Israel, the Jews, according to, we use their name like Paul did, have nothing to do with white. There ain't no such thing as a white Jew. Okay, I'm waiting on it. I know I didn't have it on the agenda, so I'll give you about another 3 seconds. All right, up there. You can't put it closer? Well, at least raise it up and so we can see the picture of the Jews, of them, if you can't put it on up on the internet. Okay, now you see these black people? I want you to read that, Antoine. What did they say? Go ahead.
Spotlight hits Jews in fabled Timbuktu. Timbuktu, the remote and ancient Sahara Desert city that was until recently controlled by al-Qaeda-affiliated groups, is not often thought of as an outpost of Jewish life. Yet this West African town of some 55,000 in northern Mali is still home to an estimated 1,000 descendants of Jews who converted to Islam centuries ago.
Now these are black folks here. Now read down here what they said, right here at the bottom. What did it say there?
We are Jews because our ancestors were Jews, whose genes are found in all our families.
So they know that they are genetically connected. That's right. Read a little more.
The statement published in a local newspaper also makes clear that the descendants are not seeking new religious or national allegiances. It is God who made Timbuktu our land of refuge, and we are Muslims.
See, they have a religion as Muslim, but they are Jews, and they said we are genetically connected, sisters and brothers. So what color is Israel? We see the same color as the Ethiopians. We are the same color as the Egyptians. We are the same colors as all of the sons of Adam, sisters and brothers. So just like the philosopher said, when you had this white guy that's called himself a Jew, that said he's a Jew, he said, what? You have to laugh. You are laughing at us. There are no white Jews. All of them, sisters and brothers, all of the tribes of Jacob are black. So thank you for your time. And we will deal with the second leg next week, which is slavery. So now, you have any announcements?
Yes. 2021 new feast days have been uploaded on the website. Please check www.theisraelofgod.com. We have 47 days to Passover. The Passover begins Friday, March 26, 2021 at sundown and ends Saturday, March 27, 2021 at sundown. Service will be held on Friday, March 26, 2021 at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. There will be no youth classes during February because of the Black History Series lessons done by Brother Bowie. All should tune in at 12 noon every Sabbath. Regular youth classes will resume on March 13th, the second Sabbath in March. Please don't use social media to update your contact information. The office does not monitor our social media platforms. Your update needs to be made by using our official email address. Provide the office with your correct contact information to receive one calendar per household in the mail. If you haven't received your contribution statement, please call or email the office. If you changed your last name or address anytime last year, please call or email us updated information. If you have any questions concerning your contribution statement, please call or email the office. Remember to always share your address with the Israel of God when making online donations so all your contributions can go to the correct person. Please make sure your address is updated on PayPal if you have a PayPal account. You can always write correct information in the note box as well. The email is theisrael@earthlink.net or call us at 708-392-1320. That's 708-392-1320. The Israel of God's 2021 5-part Black History Series has started this month and will continue every Sabbath day until March. You can see all of the lesson titles on the church's social media platforms. Please like and share to invite your family and friends to join us each week to learn about biblical Black history told by the prophets. If you need prayer, please contact the Prayer, Health, and Spiritual Committee. Their email information is on the website. If you have any church business to announce, please use the announcements email. It is spelled with an S at theisraelofgod.com address, which is announcements@theisraelofgod.com. Again, that's announcements@theisraelofgod.com. You can use this email for your camp's information about birth and bereavement information. Please submit your information by Friday evening, as this email address is for Sabbath day announcements only. The ILG Phoenix Camp will be doing baptisms every first Sabbath of the month. Anyone that might be interested, please call the numbers provided on our webpage for that particular camp. It is with great sorrow I pass this information. Our beloved brother Mike Jones passed away early Wednesday morning, January 27th. His services are viewing on February 7th from 3 to 6 p.m. Service on Monday, February 8th at 9:30 a.m. Let me say that again. His services will be viewing tomorrow, Sunday, February 7th from 3 to 6 p.m. And his service will be Monday, February 8th at 9:30 a.m. And it's a Zoom ID, and I hope they put that on the screen, of 816-6293-1875, a Zoom ID of 816-6293-1875 with a passcode of 388153. Again, that passcode is 388153. The funeral home is Gatlin Funeral Home.
Where is that?
On 103rd and Halsted. Gatlin Funeral Home, 103rd and Halsted. Sister Rosalind Banks Morris passed away on February 4th, 2021. She was a part of the Riverdale class. Please keep her family in our prayers. The Israel of God presents Black History. This is for the Christian Israelite Institute, the children's class. The Israel of God presents Black History told by the prophets February 6th through March 6th. These classes will be taught by Brother Bowie at 12 p.m. The Christian Israelite Institute youth classes will resume on March 13th, the second Sabbath in March. Attention all heads of the Israel of God classes in every city, effective March 13, 2021. We want all ILG youth to be logged on with us here in Riverdale for youth classes. I'll repeat that. Effective March 13, 2021, we want all ILG youth to be logged on with us here in Riverdale for youth classes. If your camp currently are not teaching youth classes on the Sabbath days in the morning, we want to invite you and have all our ILG youth to log on to YouTube, type Christian Israelite Institute, and click the logo that says the Israel of God Future Generation. Classes will be held on the 2nd through the 5th Sabbaths and start at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Again, that's the 2nd through the 4th or 5th Sabbath, starting at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. The first Sabbath will no class for the youth. Please share and include this information in your local announcements and your social media platforms. Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, I have an announcement also. Sit down. Last Wednesday, I took my first vaccine shot. And my second one will come on March the 3rd. So I just want to let you know. So now if you stand, face Jerusalem, we're going to close out.
Our Father which art in heaven.
Our Father which art in heaven,